Hey everybody, it's Beverly at Bama Blind, and today I'm going to kind of do a rant. It's not really a rant, it's about as close to a rant as I'm going to get. And it has to do with the subject, why don't you wear glasses? And I have heard that question asked over 30 years, and it really gets tiresome, and sometimes you just want to turn around and walk the other way, and you can't. Being legally blind has got its own set of challenges, but when the public doesn't understand that blindness is a continuum, it's really hard when they have a question like that, like, why don't you wear glasses? It's really hard to keep your composure and actually answer the question. So today I'm going to talk about some of the ways you can answer that kind of question. I was asked that question as a child, as a teenager, a lot as a child, and I would just say, glasses don't help. That's all I would say, glasses don't help. And then people would be puzzled, well, gosh, glasses help everybody. So, I really didn't go into any more detail than that. I was very shy and very withdrawn around people that weren't my immediate family. And I didn't have the social skills to actually go into any other answer than that. And I probably didn't even have the knowledge. Then I went to the School for the Blind when I was, in 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade. I lived back in the 70s, and my local principal said I was not allowed to attend the school in my hometown in junior high. So he told my parents it was best that I go off and live in a residential school. And so, they made that hard decision, and it was a great decision for me because I really learned how to be blind at the School for the Blind. I really compared myself. I thought, okay, this is a group of my peers. These are really my peers. So I learned how to answer questions and how they dealt with things like that. And there were so many more challenges that I had ever seen before that were presented at the School for the Blind. So I learned a lot from my co-eds there at the school. And I eventually got into rehabilitation for the blind and visually impaired. And I worked for 10 years in that career, and I learned a lot about how people deal with that particular question. Why don't you wear glasses? And I learned that, sometimes I'll just say, well, I'll get real sassy and say, well, it's not a refractive error. What I have is not a refractive error. And that usually turns them off really quick because that's the way the ophthalmologists and optometrists, put it on the report. They say it's no refractive error, and that means there's a disease process, and refraction just means glasses or correction with lenses, contact lenses, glasses, even LASIK surgery. So those are refractive errors. And they usually are things, at the front of the eye, which is not a disease process. It's just the shape of the eye, and that's the way it is. And you can correct it with glasses. I even had a teacher once that, I was in. This was prior to me going to the School for the Blind, and I was in a class, and it was a substitute teacher. I think I was in maybe 5th or 6th grade, and I was doing my very best to read something that I had written. Now, I could never read print after the 2nd grade because the print gets smaller and smaller, as most people that are sighted know, and probably everybody else knows that, when you're in 1st grade it's big print, and in 2nd grade it's smaller, and 3rd grade it gets smaller until it's just regular, 12 font or 10 font or whatever. Well, I could never read that, but I was trying to read some handwritten stuff. And I probably had my head down looking toward the paper, down toward my desk, trying to read my handwritten notes, and a teacher came up, grabbed me by the forehead, and pulled my head backward and said, "Don't be looking at that paper so closely, you'll ruin your eyes." And I can crack up now, and I hope you're cracking up. But this teacher had no idea my eyes were already ruined. I was doing really, really good to see my own handwriting. So, those kinds of things have been said to me all of my life. I do now say I try to educate people, because I feel if I don't educate them, this might be the only opportunity an inquisitive person has to talk to someone like me. So I'm going to, by gosh, tell them as much as their little ears will hear. And then they'll be sorry they ever asked me again, why don't you wear glasses? But I explain that vision is a spectrum. Sight is a spectrum. And we're accustomed to what's called normal vision, which we all know is 20/20. That's normal. You can get a little better than normal at 20/15 or 20/10. By the way, my sister had 20/10 vision. My brother had 20/10 vision. So talk about the short straw that I drew. But anyway, the continuum of vision, we all know, goes from 20/20 to 20/30 to 20/40. And once you get beyond 20/40, you're out of the within normal limits range, and that's how the doctors put it, within normal limits. So you're out of that range, and you're into low vision. Low vision is vision that's really not correctable with any kind of lenses or devices, that's over 20/40. So you get to 20/40, 20/80, 20/100, 21/50, 21/80. That's a really, really difficult range, because you're not defined by law as being blind. And once you get defined by law at 20/200 in the best eye with best correction, we all know that is the definition, at least for visual acuity, of legal blindness. And that just allows you to have some rights and privileges which are not afforded to people that have vision better than you. The other definition of legal blindness is a field vision that is 20 degrees or less. So as we know, the field vision is 180 degrees on either side, from your left hand put up by your shoulder to your right hand put up by your other shoulder, and all the way around that half circle there is 180 degrees, which I'm looking down here at the floor at Gretchen, and hers is 240 degrees. So she, as a guide dog, has a much greater field of vision than the normal human field of vision. But once you have something like glaucoma or retinitis pigmentosa, you understand that you start losing peripheral vision, and so the definition of legal blindness also comes to, a field of vision that is 20 degrees or less, which is basically tunnel vision. Doctors will describe it as keyhole vision when it gets smaller, and pinpoint vision when it gets smaller. So back to the age-old question of why don't you wear glasses? I get into that entire spectrum if they want to stand there for a while and listen to the spectrum. And then I say, and you are probably graced, blessed to have your normal vision, because there's a whole lot of people out there that fall outside of that norm, and they are not completely blind. I think there is, I shouldn't quote this, but there's around, I think 8% of the blind population is completely blind. So when I tell people those kind of statistics, it boggles their mind, so they then they start asking, well, what can you see and what can't you see? And that's really difficult to explain, especially in passing or with the question, why don't you wear glasses? And sometimes if I'm really, really sassy, I'll say, gosh, you know, all these years, I probably should have asked my eye doctor every 6 months when I went to see her. Why in the heck am I not wearing glasses? You know, just slap some glasses on me and everything will be fine. So if I'm really feeling sassy, you know, I will truly say something like that, you know, I really should ask my eye doctor that. Why am I not wearing glasses? And I'm pretty good about determining the sincerity of the question when it's asked. You can typically tell when you're talking to someone, do they really want to know, or are they just being obtuse? You know, are they being difficult? And, you know, I really can't say in my life I've run into too many people that I've had to pull the sassy answers out. You know, well, you know, my eye doctor, I really need to discuss this with my eye doctor, that all these years I really should have been wearing glasses maybe, and I'm walking around here with a white cane. Or, you know, that it's glasses don't help. So that's about the extent of my rant, and I kind of boil it down to the sassy responses and the education responses. When kids ask me now, I say, well, my eyes don't work, you know. When I was asked as a child, I just said, glasses don't help me. And that usually suffices, but for some people who need that sassy response, you know, you come out with, well, gosh, I really need to discuss that with my eye doctor, because, geez, they're missing something here that you know about, obviously. Or it's not a refractive error. You know, if they really are needing a sassy answer and you're needing them to go away, you just say, well, it's not a refractive error. And they don't know what that means half the time. So you can just walk away and be okay with that, because it is not a refractive error. It's a disease of the eye. So that's all of that rant, and I will probably have several more sassy rants. Not too bad. I don't rant too much. I don't even rant with my kids or my grandkids or even Gretchen. We usually typically have fun. So that's what we're all about at Bama Blind. And I'll talk to you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.